When scrap becomes deadly, the silence of space was broken only by the steady hum of Alina Rodriguez's salvage vessel. The rust bucket, as it drifted through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. At 45, Alina had seen enough of the galaxy to know that the best finds usually came with the worst problems. Her weathered hands gripped the controls with practiced ease, scanning the debris field that stretched endlessly before her view screen. Alina had been salvaging for 12 years, ever since she left the Solar Defense Force. The military had taught her engineering, but civilian life had taught her survival. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray, and her brown eyes held the sharp focus of someone who had learned to spot danger from 1,000,000 kilometers away. The scar running from her left temple to her jaw was a reminder of her last military mission, when a Martian separatist bomb had nearly ended her career permanently. Her scanner beeped insistently, pulling her attention to a massive blip on the edge of the debris field. Alina frowned and adjusted the sensors. Whatever it was big and metallic, definitely artificial. In 12 years of salvaging, she had learned to trust her instincts, and right now they were telling her this was either going to make her rich or get her killed. The object came into view slowly, revealing itself to be unlike anything Alina had ever seen. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest human vessels, but its design was completely alien. The hull curved in impossible ways, as if the metal had been grown rather than built. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Alina's breath caught in her throat. In all her years salvaging, she had never encountered anything truly alien. Humanity had been reaching for the stars for decades, but they had always been alone. The discovery of intelligent alien life would change everything, and she was looking at proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. She maneuvered the rust bucket closer, her scanners working overtime to analyze the strange vessel. The readings were confusing and contradictory. The ship showed signs of battle damage, with what looked like plasma scoring along its hull, but its power core was still active. More disturbing, her scanners detected life support systems that were still functioning. Alina knew she should report this to the authorities immediately. A discovery of this magnitude belonged to all of humanity, not to one independent salvager working the asteroid belt. But she also knew how the government worked. They would classify everything, lock it away, and she would be lucky to get a finder's fee. Meanwhile, the technology aboard that ship could revolutionize human space travel and possibly give them the tools they needed to defend themselves in a hostile galaxy. She made her decision and began the docking procedure. The airlock sealed with a hiss that seemed unnaturally loud in the silence of space. Alina checked her environmental suit one final time, ensuring her oxygen supply was full and her emergency beacon was active. She had survived this long by being careful, and alien ships were definitely not the place to start taking unnecessary risks. The alien ship's airlock was unlike anything in her experience. Instead of mechanical controls, it responded to her touch, somehow recognizing her as a sentient being and adjusting its internal atmosphere to match her needs. Alina's engineering background told her that such adaptive technology was centuries beyond anything humanity had developed. The interior of the ship was even more amazing than the exterior. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for beings larger than humans, but they curved and flowed in ways that seemed to defy conventional physics. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols Alina had seen on the hull, and they pulsed with that same inner light. providing illumination that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Alina moved carefully through the ship, her scanner recording everything. The technology she was seeing would transform human civilization, but she needed to understand it first. She had learned in her military days that alien technology could be as dangerous as it was valuable, and she had no intention of accidentally triggering some kind of self-destruct system. She found the bridge after 20 minutes of careful exploration. It was a vast chamber dominated by a central command chair that seemed to be grown from the same material as the ship itself. Banks of controls surrounded the chair, all of them displaying information in the alien script that covered the walls. Alina approached the command chair cautiously, but as she drew near, the symbols on the controls began to change. She watched in amazement as the alien script flowed and reformed, transforming into perfect English text. Someone or something was translating for her in real time. "Welcome aboard the Shadow of Dominion," a voice said behind her. Alina spun around, her hand going instinctively to the plasma cutter at her belt. Standing in the entrance to the bridge was a figure that was clearly not human, but not entirely alien either. It was tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. Its features were elegant and somehow familiar, as if Alina had seen them in dreams. "Please do not be alarmed," the figure continued in perfect English, though its lips did not move. "I am the ship's artificial intelligence, manifested in holographic form for your convenience. My designation is roughly equivalent to your concept of navigator, though the translation is imperfect." Alina kept her hand on her weapon, but tried to appear calm. "You speak English?" "I speak all languages," Navigator replied. "It is necessary for proper communication with the various species that serve the hegemony empire. Your species' linguistic patterns are quite elegant, actually. Very efficient for conveying complex, emotional, and technical concepts. The hegemony empire?" Alina asked, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew the answer. "The dominant galactic power for the past 3,000 years, Navigator explained, spanning 12 spiral arms and encompassing over 10 million inhabited worlds. Your planet is located in what we call the frontier sector, an area we have designated for future expansion." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, but they had never considered that they might be nothing more than a future conquest target for an alien empire, and this ship belongs to them. This ship belonged to Supreme Chancellor Vorthok, absolute ruler of the hegemony empire, Navigator said, and Alina noticed a strange tone in its voice. Until very recently, Elena's engineering mind was already working, analyzing what she was hearing. A damaged ship belonging to the ruler of a galactic empire, drifting in human space with its AI still active. What happened to him? Navigator was silent for a long moment, as if processing the question. The Supreme Chancellor was overthrown in a coup led by his military commanders. He fled with this ship and a small portion of the Imperial Treasury, intending to establish a base of operations from which to reclaim his throne. But he didn't make it. "No," Navigator confirmed. "We were ambushed by Imperial forces 3 days ago. The Chancellor was mortally wounded in the attack. Before he died, he ordered me to prevent the ship's technology from falling into the hands of his enemies." Alina looked around the bridge, beginning to understand the magnitude of what she had stumbled into. "And now I'm here." "Yes," Navigator said. "You are here, Alina Rodriguez, formerly Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez of the Solar Defense Force. currently operating under salvage license number 4471 Delta. You are here, and I must decide what to do about that. Elena's hand tightened on her weapon. You've been scanning my records. Your ship's computer was quite cooperative, Navigator replied without apparent concern. I needed to understand what manner of being had discovered us. Your species is remarkable, Elena Rodriguez. In 300 years of expansion from your homeworld, you have displayed an adaptability and ingenuity that most species require millennia to develop. Elena wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a threat assessment. What do you want from me? I am faced with a dilemma, Navigator explained. My programming requires me to prevent this ship's technology from falling into Imperial hands, but it also forbids me from allowing it to be used by potentially hostile alien species. Your presence here creates an unprecedented situation. Elena looked around the bridge again, her mind racing. The technology she was seeing represented centuries of advancement beyond anything humanity possessed. Faster than light travel, energy, weapons, adaptive artificial intelligence, materials science that could revolutionize construction and manufacturing. In the right hands, it could lift humanity to the stars. In the wrong hands, it could be used to conquer and subjugate her entire species. What if I could prove that humanity isn't hostile? Elena asked. Navigator tilted its holographic head. How would you do that? Elena thought carefully before answering. This was the most important conversation of her life, possibly of human history. In my experience, truly hostile species don't salvage. They take, they conquer, they destroy. I found your ship, and my first instinct wasn't to loot it or report it to my military. It was to understand it. Interesting perspective, Navigator mused. Continue. Look at human history, Elena said, warming to her subject. We've made mistakes, terrible ones, but we've also shown the capacity to learn and grow. We ended slavery. We've worked to preserve our environment. We've reached for the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. Navigator was silent for several minutes, and Elena could almost feel the artificial intelligence processing her words. Finally, it spoke. Your arguments have merit, Elena Rodriguez, but I require more than words. I require proof of your species' true nature. Before Elena could ask what kind of proof Navigator wanted, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The holographic AI's form flickered with what appeared to be alarm. Imperial scouts, Navigator announced grimly. They have found us. Elena rushed to the view screen and felt her blood run cold. 3 sleek vessels were approaching, their hulls bearing the same symbols she had seen throughout the shadow of Dominion. They were beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, all curves and deadly grace. Can we run? Elena asked. The ship's hyperdrive was damaged in the attack, Navigator replied. We cannot escape. Elena's military training took over, pushing aside her fear and replacing it with cold calculation. Then we fight. With what? You are one human with a plasma cutter, and I am forbidden from using the ship's weapon systems without proper authorization. Elena smiled grimly. Then I guess it's time to get creative. As the Imperial ships closed in on their position, Elena Rodriguez, veteran salvager and former military engineer, began to form a plan that would either save humanity's future or get her killed trying. She had always known that the best salvage came with the worst problems, but she had never imagined that a piece of alien scrap would put her at the center of a galactic war. The approaching Imperial vessels began broadcasting demands for surrender in that same flowing alien script, but Alina wasn't listening. She was studying the ship's systems, her engineer's mind already working out how to turn this monument to alien technology into something the Imperial forces would never expect. After all, they had never fought humans before. They had no idea what they were up against. Asterisk human ingenuity versus galactic power. The 3 Imperial vessels moved with predatory grace through the asteroid field, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian in the starlight. Alina watched them approach on the view screen, her mind racing through possibilities and discarding them just as quickly. The ships were beautiful in the way that apex predators were beautiful, all flowing lines and hidden weapons. They are demanding our immediate surrender, Navigator reported, its holographic form flickering with what Alina had learned to recognize as agitation. Commander Zix of the Imperial Reclamation Division offers clemency in exchange for cooperation. Alina snorted. And if we refuse, then we will be destroyed as traitors to the Empire. Alina studied the approaching ships, her engineers' eye noting details that most people would miss. The vessels were obviously built for speed and firepower, but they shared the same organic design philosophy as the Shadow of Dominion. That meant they probably had similar systems, similar weaknesses. Navigator, I need you to show me the ships. Defensive capabilities, Alina said. Everything you've got. The holographic AI hesitated. I am not authorized to provide weapons access to unverified personnel. Then verify me, Alina replied sharply. Because in about 5 minutes, those ships are going to be close enough to use their weapons. And I'm guessing they're not going to be as polite as you are. Navigator's form solidified slightly, as if it were making a decision. Very well, but understand that what I am about to show you represents thousands of years of Imperial technological development. This knowledge could transform or destroy your species. Alina nodded grimly. I understand the risks. The bridge around them suddenly came alive with new displays, showing system diagrams and tactical readouts that made Alina's head spin. The Shadow of Dominion was not just a ship, she realized. It was a mobile fortress, capable of devastating entire fleets. The weapons systems alone were beyond anything in human military arsenals. The primary plasma cannon array is offline due to battle damage, Navigator explained, highlighting damaged sections on the display. But the secondary systems remain functional. Particle beam projectors, gravitic torpedoes, and the quantum disruption field. Alina studied the readouts, her military training helping her make sense of the alien technology. What about the quantum disruption field? What does that do? It creates localized distortions in space-time, making it impossible for enemy vessels to target us accurately. However, it also prevents us from using our own weapons while it is active. Alina smiled. The beginnings of a plan were forming in her mind. What about the ship's manufacturing capabilities? Can it build things? Navigator looked puzzled. The ship has matter assemblers for maintenance and repair. Why do you ask? Because I have an idea, Alina said. But I'm going to need your complete cooperation. No restrictions, no safety protocols. Can you do that? The AI was silent for a long moment. What you are asking would require me to override my core programming. I would need to be convinced that you represent a better alternative than Imperial rule. Alina looked at the approaching ships, then back at Navigator. How many worlds has the Empire conquered? Approximately 43 million across multiple galactic regions. And how many species have they enslaved or destroyed? Navigator's form flickered. The Empire does not engage in slavery. Conquered species are incorporated into the imperial hierarchy according to their capabilities and loyalty. That's not what I asked, Alina pressed. How many species have been destroyed because they refuse to submit? The AI's silence was answer enough. Alina continued, I've studied galactic history, Navigator. Every empire that has ever existed has eventually fallen. Usually because they became too rigid, too oppressive, too convinced of their own superiority. The hegemony empire is no different. It's already showing cracks, or your supreme chancellor wouldn't have been overthrown. The coup was an aberration, Navigator protested. Order will be restored. By whom? By Commander Zix out there, who's probably planning to use this ship's technology to establish his own power base. Or by the next ambitious general who decides the current leadership isn't strong enough.